The sound of sirens rang out across Ukraine on Thursday morning as several cities came under a fresh wave of Russian missile attacks. Authorities across the country say their air defence systems have been activated and are targeting more than 120 incoming rockets. Ukrainian authorities in several regions said some incoming Russian missiles were intercepted. 5 missiles were shot down over the Black Sea, while another 2 were downed over the Sumy region. Thursday's attacks are the latest in an ongoing series of calculated Russian strikes on critical infrastructure. Power has been switched off in several cities to minimise damage to the country's energy grid.
Я здесь.
Tensions flared in La Paz, Bolivia on Wednesday as people protested the detention of the prominent opposition leader Luis Fernando Camacho. The right-wing governor of Santa Cruz was arrested in his home city and taken to a police station in La Paz. Camacho was detained on charges of terrorism, Bolivia's state attorney's office confirmed. His lawyer shared clips purportedly showing the moment of the governor's arrest. A passenger who was with Camacho recalled their vehicle being stopped by men dressed in black who smashed their windows in with the butts of their rifles. Amateur clips have emerged showing people clashing with staff at the airport in Santa Cruz and storming its runway in an apparent attempt to stop Camacho from being taken to another location. Protesters claimed their governor had been kidnapped. Local media footage showed security forces using tear gas on the streets of Santa Cruz. The Bolivian state attorney's office said Camacho's arrest was linked to the toppling of former leftist President Evo Morales in 2019. Camacho is the second high-profile figure to be detained in connection to the case after last year's jailing of ex-President Janine Áñez for orchestrating a coup. Bolivia's interior minister later rejected claims that Camacho was injured, tweeting that the governor was given a medical assessment and his health was stable. Camacho had been leading weeks of protests that started in October, fueled by anger over the government's delay in carrying out Bolivia's population census. A new census would have seen Santa Cruz, which has long butted heads with rival city La Paz, securing more tax revenues and seats in Congress. A U.S. State Department spokesperson has urged Bolivian authorities to respect due process against those charged.
Serbia's president has announced that Serbs from Kosovo will begin to remove barricades and roadblocks near some border crossings between the two countries today. The leaders of Serbia and Kosovo agreed on a compromise to defuse a tense 19-day standoff a day after Serbia put its troops there on alert. This is not a simple process and can't be done in 2 hours, as some imagined. But within 24 to 48 hours, the barricades will be removed. But distrust is not removed. Those who are playing with the very existence of Serbs in Kosovo must know that we didn't allow it now and we will not allow it in the future. Months of tensions over a Kosovo government ban on Serbia-issued licence plates was exacerbated with the arrest of a former Kosovo Serb policeman on December the 10th. His lawyer said on Wednesday he'd been released and was under house arrest. This morning, security patrols were out on the streets as the new decision was implemented.
The European Commission has called for a meeting to discuss possible measures for a coordinated approach on Chinese travellers after Beijing announced the easing of travel restrictions. China loosened its strict zero-tolerance measures earlier this month and has now given residents the green light to travel abroad. It will also scrap quarantine requirements for international arrivals from January 8th. However, Brussels has expressed concern about China's lack of transparency surrounding the recent surge in cases. The US, India and Japan have already introduced compulsory testing for all incoming travellers from China amid concerns of new variants. Back on the European bloc, Italy says it will begin to test all arrivals from China and has urged neighbouring EU members to do the same.
Finland's first floating liquefied natural gas terminal has moored at the southern port of Inku, where it will act as a gateway to gas supplies, since the Nordic country was cut off from Russian gas imports earlier this year. In May, Moscow's state energy provider Gazprom announced it had supplied 1.49 billion cubic meters of natural gas to Finland last year, around two-thirds of the country's total consumption. The country is now joining others, adopting these liquefied gas terminals to reduce their dependence on Russian gas since the war in Ukraine began. In December, Germany, which was previously dependent on over half of its gas imports on Russia, inaugurated its first terminal, and 5 other floating terminals will follow. The facilities will allow countries to import liquefied gas from exporters such as the US and Qatar, or any other seller on the open market, making it easier to diversify away from Russia.